Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Revit Pure Live. I am your host, Nicolas Catelier. I am an architect, a BIM specialist, and the founder of Revit Pure. Revit Pure is a show where we help you become a better Revit and BIM user. And we have a very special guest for you guys today. But before moving on with the guest, a few things to mention. Well, first, having a glance at the chat, and we have Debbie from Maine, we have Alec from New Zealand, Vincent from Laguna, Agustina from Uruguay, Waldo from Namibia. We've got people from Thailand and Boston. So, and we've got Thomas Surface, which I think was the winner of the environment plugin license last time I had a session with Nehama. So that's it's funny to see that. Hello, Thomas. Okay. You can keep saying where you're from meanwhile. A few things to mention. I've just released on the Revit Pure blog a brand new post and family I've been working on for multiple months. I think you'll find it interesting. It's a collab I did with one of my clients, which is the Quebec Wood Export Bureau. And I think this explains the family pretty well. It's a structural system, and you can drag the blue arrows and all the parts of the system will automatically adjust, including the beams and so on. And yeah, in this guide, you will see all information about how this family is built, all the features you can get inside of it, including schedule and so on. And it's free. It's a free download, and you'll get the link at the very top of this post. It's the most recent post as of now, except if you're watching for the future, of course, it might be beyond, but you can get it at revitpure.com/blog/floor system. Something else to talk about. Last fall, just before Christmas time, I had a course called Advanced Revit Family Strategies. It was a cohort-based course with 25 students, and it was really fun. It was 6 live sessions of 2 hours, and now I had so much fun and so much good feedback. I've decided to run the cohort again. And the dates, I've got all the sessions over here. It starts on March 20th. So the enrollment process is not yet open, but it's going to open very soon. So you can have a look at the YouTube description of this video to download a PDF that contains all the information, and you'll get a link so I can let you know when the enrollment open. So that's for the family course. And finally, let's talk about Revit Pure. We have multiple courses. And if you go at revitpure.com/bundle, we have 3 courses, including basics, design, and manage. And you can get the special bundle where you get 30% off when you combine the 3 packages together at $4.99. And this also includes our Pro template, the Revit Pure Pro template, which I use as a starting point with all my clients. Whenever I have a client that needs a template, I start with the Pro template and then add content and customize it to whatever their needs. So you can learn more about that at revitpure.com/bundle. You can learn more about all of the courses, especially manage. If you are a BIM manager struggling with some part of your job, this is the course you're looking for. And actually, I'm going to do a giveaway of this special bundle. And let me start the giveaway right now. And for this giveaway, there you go, like you can see in the chat. And to participate in the giveaway, you have to type in !raffle in the chat, in the live YouTube chat. If you're watching the replay, it's too late for you. But if you're watching this live, you can win a 3 packages bundle of all our courses. Type in !raffle. And then in 5 minutes away from now, we'll have a winner, and you can claim your prize by sending an email at nick@revitpure.com. And stay tuned. We've actually got more for you at the end of the session. We'll do another giveaway for an environment license. All right, that's enough talking. Let's... So I can see everybody typing raffle. That's quite a lot. So my next guest is coming back for the third time on the show. And the first time she came in was actually the most popular Revit Pure Live episode ever. She's the COO at Arch Intelligence, where she helps working on the environment plugin for Revit. And she's also a landscape architect. So welcome to the show, Nehama.
Hi, glad to be here again. Very excited.
How are you?
I'm very, very good. It's been an exciting year. We finally got to see some events, some live events face to face. So here is a discovery for everybody. Nick and I met for the first time at the AU
Yes, that's true.
2022. It was really, really nice to actually see people in
Mm-hmm.
the real world.
They're just behind cameras. And a funny thing, I
Yes.
saw Thomas Surface in the chat, and you mentioned that Thomas is actually a big user of an environment.
Yes, he won our free license, and Thomas Vogt, I think his
Mm-hmm.
last name. So Ilya and I got to meet with him, and we were pretty impressed with his work on with our tools specifically, and with developing Dynamo scripts, and with working with topographies and the outdoors around the building in his office. So we're very, very exciting to give another free license away this year, since it looks like it's going to good people and doing good stuff.
Uh, all right. So, what's new with environment for Revit? I think it's been about a year since we last had a live session, something like that. So
Yes.
perhaps we can go straight to it. I'll share your camera. I'll share your screen.
So actually, there's a lot of new things in environment for Amit. It's really hard for me to say what was new in this past year because
Yeah.
we release a new version every 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And we're now working very, very hard to be prepared to the Revit 2024. So we have to always keep up to date with things. But I'm going to talk today about some of the new tools, but not only about the new tools, because our topic is more about how to manage your site models. And this is something that I'm really excited to talk about. So, first, I have to say, I was never officially trained as a B manager, but because, Revit started to be common in landscape architecture just the past few years since we have, the tools to do the work, right? And it's kind of like a new discipline to be a B manager for landscape architects. So since I was doing it so much, I found myself having to explain these things to B managers all the time, or just having to do these things myself. So I thought it would be a great topic to just talk about this new and emerging, I wouldn't call it profession, but it's kind of a new position, in offices, especially multidisciplinary offices where you have B managers doing it all the time. And now landscape architects are coming along and there's kind of it's kind of overwhelming. So I have to say, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe you should give a little context for I kind of talk like assuming people know what an environment is and know where you are. Maybe you should give some introduction to what the plugin is and what are the limitations of Revit when it comes to landscape. So can you give a quick overview?
Yeah, so just a quick overview. Revit, when I started using it, it had a name of a software that doesn't suit landscape architects. Today, I have to say that's nonsense. Revit is a great tool for landscape architects because, hey, it has surfaces that naturally show me the contour lines, and whatever change I make to the surface, the contour line changes. So that's, wow, every landscape architect's dream. Or it has stuff like spot elevation and spot slope, which is pretty basic to any Revit users. But if you're coming from a CAD environment, um, that's amazing. But some of the functionality is missing some of the flexibility when it comes to creating very accurate rating and blending correctly with your surrounding. So all the things that you see over here, all the very accurate grading that you can see, we can go to the, for example, grading plan. Everything you see is native Revit elements, native Revit categories, but the way they were constructed or the flexibility around making it really accurate and landscape friendly was created with environment tools. So we started selling at around the beginning of 2019 globally. Started developing a bit earlier, and today we have about 50 tools, I think. Our tools are basically modeling tools. They just make your job easier and they make you feel like Revit was meant to be for any site discipline. So obviously we have a lot of landscape architecture customers, we have a lot of architects and a lot of surveyors, by the way. It's starting to be a really big thing. We have tools for working with walls, railings, topographies, a lot of tools for working with topographies. You can check out my left AU class about all the tools that are meant for working with topographies. Some tools for plantings, working with families, representation tools. So basically collaboration with Civil 3D and some of the tools I'm going to show you today are mostly, we're going to talk about Revit native stuff, and we're going to talk about how whenever you're missing something, then that's where you can use environment. So we're kind of going to do a bit of everything, I think.
All right. Just before moving on, we've got a winner. So let me share my screen for a minute. Okay, so the winner is Charles Jones. Congratulations, Charles. You just won the 3 bundles, the 3 courses bundle package, and you can claim your prize at Nick@Revit Pure. So just send an email saying you won, and I will enroll you in the 3 courses, and you can download everything, and hoping you can enjoy. So congratulations. And we're going to do another giveaway at the end of the session. So stay in place. Don't leave this session. We're going to give away a free environment for Revit plugin license at the end of this session. So thank you, and back to you, Nehama.
Yeah, so that being said, if you guys don't know our tools yet, then you can go to our web page. You can watch my Autodesk University class. There's really a lot out there for anyone. But as I said, what I'm most excited to talk about today is how to manage models. So the first thing I want to say is that being a BIM manager for site projects is just like being a BIM manager. It's pretty much the same. You have to know what you do. You have to know Revit. It's the same task. And there are some specific things that you just have to pay attention to or to add to that are unique to the site models. And what I want to talk about first is the topic of coordination, especially shared coordinates, elevations, and how to locate objects on your site. So we talked a little bit before the show, and I told you that I'm going to mention your pamphlet. So I'm not going to teach you what shared coordinates in Revit are, because actually Nick has done it pretty well. So if you guys want to learn about it, I can openly advise people to go to this pamphlet and learn. It's really useful. And what I like about it is that you make a complicated thing very, very simple. And that's an art. So you can start here. It's important to say that every country or every office does it a little bit differently, but the main principles and the main concepts, they remain the same. The one thing that I do want to add in a landscape model is the topic of levels. And that's a question because we know what Revit levels does for a building, but what do they do in a landscape or a site project, and do you even need it? So in every site project, you should have one level at least. I mean, sometimes you have more, but there's one main level that you relate everything to. And this is the first thing, the first topic I want to talk about. And this is a Revit level that I call, I think this is this one, no? And this is a level that we call the sea level. And most of the things I'm going to talk about today are relevant to how you create a template, and they're also a part of the basic template that we give away. So whenever you create a landscape file, you should have a level that's called a sea level. So why at all having levels in a Revit site project? I mean, you can use, if you read your explanation, you can use the internal origin and the survey point as the sea level. You can refer everything to. So what's the point of having a sea level? So I prepared some slides, but not all of them are relevant. So there are a few big advantages of having this level. The first one is that the mostly used site elements need constraints as leveled. These are floors and walls. The other reason is that this element, the level, has information. And the third reason is that all site disciplines work with sea level. So let's kind of break up these three reasons. So first, let's talk about the elements that has constraints, okay? So all the mostly used elements in the landscape, these are floors and walls. Both of them need a level as a constraint. So let's go, for example, to the walls, right? When I build a wall like that, I don't have to have the sea level as a constraint to reach the correct elevations. However, the way in site disciplines you design, you always need to refer to the absolute elevation, to the elevation in relation to sea level. So it makes perfect sense that the elevation that you insert here in the properties would be the actual elevation that you mean to have when you're designing, right? So when you design a landscape wall, you always want to check what's the elevation on this side of the wall, right? What's the elevation on this side? And it's always absolute elevation in relation to zero. So having a sea level in your file just allows you to do that. And another thing, when you're talking about floor, let's divide it to 2022 and 2023, right? Because let's move to, for example, Revit 2022. When you're talking about floors, all the floors in our file are shape edited floors, right? And how do you shape edit a floor? You use the modify sub element. Now that's a really nice thing. Take a look at this floor. It's always on sea level, always on zero elevation, right? And the result is that whenever I select an elevation point, I get the correct absolute elevation from sea level. Had I worked differently, if I would, for example, change the level or let's go, change the height offset from level, let's do a little bit of nonsense over here, right? Then if I go to the modify sub element again and select this point, you can see that the elevation that it shows is still the same elevation, even though it's a lot higher. So that's really confusing. And at least until Revit 2023, you should really make sure that all your floors are attached to sea level and at zero elevation. And then when you modify sub element, you're able to work with the correct elevation. And again, for site disciplines, that's crucial. If we move to Revit 2023, the nice improvement that they did is that you can actually select what's the elevation base. So if you moved your floor, you can always go back and use the survey point. But it still doesn't mean that we don't need our sea level. We need it because we are all humans. And when we talk about stuff like survey point or internal origin, it is common sense to treat them as sea level, just like you explain in your pamphlet, but that's subjected to interpretation. And not everybody, work the way they should. But when you have a level, you're able to just give it a name. And then no one can get confused because we all understand what this is doing. This is the sea level, right? Um, and this is another important thing. Um, and okay, and so the next thing would be, where do we relate? Where does this sea level relate to? What is it relating to, right? Because in Revit we learned that everything is relative, everything has to relate to something. So I found that the best way to do it is just to have everything relating to survey point and the survey point relating to the internal origin. So for example, if we go back to Revit and we have here a new project, it is very common for me to see that for some example, people who want to have their project base point at a high level, what they end up doing, they take the survey point, no, not the project base point, the survey point, and they take it down in order to give the project base point an elevation, right? Because the project base point always relates to the survey point. No, please don't do that. That's not good because topographies always relate to the internal origin. And this would make all the projects show one kind of elevation and topographies show another kind of elevation. That's not good. So if you want to give your project base point an elevation, please just go ahead and give it an elevation. That works. And this just makes perfect sense. So again, if we go back to this little thing I prepared, it just makes everybody's life a lot easier. Sometimes some people need to assign an elevation to the survey point. So it will mark the starting point of the local survey of the site. Well, that's not a problem. Just take the survey point, unclip it, give it an elevation, give it a location, and then clip it again. There's one thing to say though, try not to do it. I mean, I think only one person in every project can do it maybe only one time at the beginning of the project, right? It's really unhealthy to touch the survey point and the project base point. And therefore we always start like that and then only one person changes it. But if you do want to change it, please unclip, change, and clip. So I guess that's the sea level. That's the one important thing about the sea level.
All right, I do have a question for you. So a
Mhm.
workflow that I've used in the past is that I work with architects who really like having the first level, the first floor of a building. I'm talking about architecture model here, but set at
Mhm.
sometimes it's 0, or sometimes it's 10,000 millimeters, or sometimes it's 100 feet if you're working in imperial. But what I've worked that kind of works okay in the past is that you have a different landscape model. And for the landscape model, indeed, we everything is based on the sea level, including the internal origin. And then when you link that, so like all site works can be done using the sea level, but when it's linked, then in the architecture, everything can be modeled more relatively to the architecture. So what do you think about that? So what you just mentioned, does it apply for landscape models or for all models?
Um, I would not I would not go and say it applies to architectural models.
Mm-hmm.
Although, again, I think it's healthier, even
Mm-hmm.
if you're an architect, to be aware of the concept of our planet and the fact that we are on it and there's ground underneath what you're doing. So it makes sense to me as a landscape architect, but I've never designed a building, so I can't say.
Mm-hmm.
As long as when you're linking the files, it all falls in place and it's all, in shared coordinates and geolocated correctly. It's not the first time I'm hearing about it. I fail to understand why. But if it's working, then don't touch it. If it's not working, then you're probably doing something wrong.
No, but it's for sure everything having the sea level as a clear reference helps a lot. But I know some architects are a bit touchy. For example, they the first level is 100 feet, and then they know then that the second level is going to be 110 feet, for example. So it's easier increments to work with. But I totally get your point. I've saw projects that are using sea level as the. But I totally get your point. I've saw projects that are using sea level as the level, and it works great as well. They're advantages, but I just
So
know some
yeah,
people are stuck with it.
they can actually do maybe sea level and then all the levels of the project just relating to the project base point, which would be 0 or 100,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything relates to it in the increments that they're used to. So because the levels that the nice thing about them is that the type of the level, you can create one type that relates to the survey point, just like I showed, and then for all the levels of the building, just relate to the project base point.
Yeah.
And
Okay. So
then you
you
can
have
start with
different kind of
100.
levels.
Exactly. And then
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
you can go with the increments that you're used to work with because all your levels relating to the project base
Mm-hmm.
point. And it makes again, it makes more sense because the project base point is supposed to be the entrance level to the project.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to move freely according to where you want it to be in your building. And it's also what the constructor in the field would relate to when marking the grids of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed to me like a healthier, kind of method to be working with.
Yeah, looking in the chat, people are split about it. Some people, Brent says, I like working, like she says, with sea level. You can play around it well. And Roberto says, I agree with Nicholas. Well, to be clear, it's not that I am for or against using a sea level. It's more the workflow I've used so far, but it's super interesting
Again, and this is
to see
for
one.
site models. So even if
Exactly,
you're,
yeah.
for example, if you're an architect that doing the landscape around the building on your own, what I would advise you is to use two models. One model for
Hmm.
your building and then another model for
Exactly.
the landscape around it. And then just link them together and you don't have just continue working like you're used to on the building. That's fine. I'm not an architect. I cannot tell you what to do.
Yeah,
I just
great
say
advice. I always, whenever there's complex topography, I always advise create a link model because it's much easier to keep it separated like this.
yeah, it's a great thing that you can link models. So
Hmm.
just use it. And I'll show in the when we go on, I'll show some more examples.
All right, we have hashtag Team Sea Level in the chat now.
All right. Yeah, everything has to be two sides. No, we love everybody. But I mean, I love more people who think like me, but anyway.
All right, I'll let you keep going.
All right. So we spoke about the internal origin a little bit, that it has to be at the sea level. And you know what? I'm gonna give a tiny, tiny example over here. So let's just create a small topography. These are our topography tools, by the way. If you haven't used them, they're pretty great. The ones I'm using right now, it's pretty much the same as Revit. But all right. So wait, let's go back again. I created a topography. So all the elevation points in a topography, they by default only relate to internal origin, right? So for example, this point over here, the elevation is 1 meter, okay? So if the survey point is not relating to the internal origin, if I don't clip it when I move it, if I change 0, then you can see this is my sea level. All right, so that let's say my sea level will be changed to 0. This is an unhealthy situation when I have both my internal origin above my sea level. And the reason for that is that everything in my project will relate to this and that, but then take a look at what happens when I edit the topography, it still is in 1 meter and it's incorrect. So again, just repeating this a little bit more of the same. Please leave it like that and it'll be okay. And then, so we talked about the internal origin is reflecting the sea level, the survey point should be attached to the internal origin or clip it if you move it. And then there's another topic which will bring us to the shared coordinates. When you acquire coordinates from a Revit link that has a project base point in an elevation, Revit is naturally doing what I just told you not to do. So if you acquire, again, and so if you acquire coordinates from a Revit link that has their project base point somewhere here, what Revit would do, it would actually take the survey point down instead of taking your project base point up. And that would cause all the confusion of what we're doing. So again, if you're working on a site project and you want to link the architecture model and acquire coordinates from it, that's what's going to happen. And there are ways around it. But I actually want to show our set coordinates tool and see how simple it is to solve it with our set coordinates tool. So let's move actually to a plan view. This is our set coordinates tool. And before I would start to talk a little bit about what's wrong with the shared coordinates in Revit, I want to talk a little bit about what the set coordinates tool is doing. So the set coordinates tool can do several things. It can allow you to set your file into shared coordinates and geolocate it. It can allow you to acquire coordinates from another file. It allows you to repair coordinates in an existing Revit file or to convert your coordinates network. So why do we need this tool? You probably know that in Revit, there's shared coordinate system and the location system, right? Let's go back to Revit and take a look at it. We have the shared coordinates, and then we have this thing, the location. And for some reason in Revit, it doesn't really work together. And if you use this set coordinates tool, what it's doing, it's setting your file into a local coordinate system and geolocate and locating it, which means together it's geolocated. So you have longitude and latitude, and you have the local coordinate system. So why do we want to geolocate? Well, CAD to Revit and back with shared coordinates, it works just fine. But if you ever touched Revit and you collaborated, you know that sometimes it just doesn't work. And you don't understand why. It's kind of unstable. So if you geolocate it correctly, it gives you the stability you dreamed on. So this is the biggest advantage, I think, of the set coordinates tool, that you should just use it instead of the acquire, and you get the geolocation and everything just works perfectly. The other thing is that if you're working on site disciplines, you want to collaborate with GIS, and then you have to be geolocated. Sun study, of course, you need to be geolocated for that. And you don't want to depend on survey data. It's not always good. So you want to have this independency to, I know the address of my project. Why wouldn't I be able to just locate it in the world, right? So it makes sense. That's my reason for everything today. Things just make sense. So as I said, it's doing these 4 things, and I'm going to give you an example of 3 of these things today. So let's jump into Revit. So this is a new file. Everything is in 0, just like I showed you before. And the first thing we're going to do is set our file into coordinates without using survey data, which is impossible in Revit unless you're using the set coordinates tool. This is actually the main reason why we created it, because we wanted it to be as simple as it is in Civil 3D or AutoCAD, right? So let's click on the set coordinates tool. And the first thing it opens the location and site from Revit. This is Revit, right? So in this case, I'm actually going to type in the address of my project. And wherever you place the red locator pin, this is where your project base point is going to be. So don't worry, you can always move it around later to wherever you need it to be, but you need to make sure that it's kind of in the center of where your project is going to be. So the project would not be too far away from the project base point. So I don't really care about the location, just should be centered around our project. Let's click on OK. And this is what I was waiting for as a landscape architect. I was waiting for it for a long time. I just wanted to have this list. This is what I wanted. I don't understand too much about geolocation. I just know that I have a local datum, a local coordinate system, and I just wanted to be able to choose it. Um, the next step, you can either set a project base point elevation or just leave it at 0. Click OK, and nothing happened. Just kidding. Take a look. So you can see that now our project base point is in coordinate, and same goes to our survey point. Again, if you want, you can move it to 0. You can place it wherever you want, but just clip it before and then unclip it. Just unclip it and clip. So we can look at it at 3D. It looks like nothing happened, but let's just insert some files to make sure that we're in correct coordinates. So let's go ahead and take our survey by shared coordinates. And of course, we're in meters. By the way, this is a pro tip in landscape CADs. Always uncheck that. It just messes them up. If it doesn't have to be a triangle, then you don't need Revit to correct the lines. But that's outside of the topic. So let's just link by shared coordinates this survey file. Oops, sorry, this is the wrong file. I'm going to do Control Z. Let's find our file. There it is, by shared coordinates meter. This is the survey. This is the address that I typed in. Right, so we have the survey file over here, and I actually, inside AutoCAD, I always like to prepare these markers, so I would know, I would be able to make sure that I'm within correct coordinates. So let's go with specify coordinates at point. I'm going to click on the tab to click on this point, and that's a wonderful moment for me when I know I'm within correct coordinates, right? Everybody are checking the numbers. Yeah, am I correct? I think I'm correct, right? I'm correct? Yeah, I'm correct. Yes, I'm correct. All right. So, going to the next stage, of course, let's also link a Revit file, for example. And again, by shared coordinates, click on open, and everything should fall, except from the nested links, but everything should fall right into place, right? Oh my God, this is so scary doing it in a live show, I have to tell you. So many things can go wrong in Revit. Up, it's right in
Especially
the
with
place,
coordinates.
especially with coordinates. Well, not with the set coordinates file. So yeah, everything is in place, everything is in correct elevation, and that's, making life really good. So this was the first example. Let's take a look at how we can actually acquire from a linked file. So let's go open, new, and open another Revit file. Right, let's go. So when we acquire coordinates regularly, as I said, the project would not be geolocated. So let's just do the same workflow as you show on your blog, just instead of using manage acquired, let's do the set coordinate. So I'm gonna insert my CAD file. This is the same survey that I showed you before. Let's insert center to center because it's a new file. All right, so a lot of times what I like doing at the beginning of a project, I like to kind of locate it in the middle. And then sometimes I also like to rotate it before I start planning because I want it to kind of be aligned nicely in the views and the sheets. And that's when I like to acquire coordinates. So now I can just go to set coordinates. And in this case, the correct address doesn't matter, but I do have to be at the same area, at the same, region as my project. So I would be able, one second, let me search, give me the option. All right. So I would be able to get the coordinates network. So as you can see, I'm just nowhere in the country, but I know I will get the coordinate system, right? Let's click on OK now. And again, I'm just going to select the correct coordinate system. And then in the additional actions, instead of just setting the coordinates, I would now acquire from link. So let's click on acquire from link. It asks me to select a link, and then it recognizes the link. And if it's a Revit link, then usually the project base point would be at the same elevation as the Revit link, which is also very useful. So click on OK. And again, everything stays in place except from the survey point that moves to the origin of the coordinate system. So that's what's happened.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. So you talk about that list of different coordinate system, that the drop-down list. So how can people know which one they should take if they're not sure? Is that something they should know?
Yes, you should know that, especially inside discipline, we're used to know these things. If you don't know and you have a survey, usually it should be defined. You can either ask the surveyor or you can open AutoCAD and check that out on AutoCAD or Civil 3D. But other than that, every region has. Oh, okay. You're in Canada and the States. Some regions have more than one coordinate network. However, if you start with the wrong one, because every region has more than one, then you can actually use the set coordinates to convert from one coordinate system to another while staying in the same location geographically. So you can make mistakes. That's okay. So yeah, that's an information that you should have. So, and again, just to show you guys that it worked perfectly, I always like to go specify coordinates in point, check it, everything is correct. And then in this case, again, I would be able to insert the same Revit link by shared coordinates, and then having all these alerts that I probably should have taken care of at the linked file. And crossing my fingers, and it's in place. And again, you should have as many markers and stuff to relate to as possible, just to make sure that when you're starting everything sits in place. All right, let's close this one and open a new one. And this is actually going to be very, very interesting. So what we're going to do in this example, I want to show you the repair option. So we had to work for quite a while to get this Revit bug, to see this situation where everybody are working correctly, acquiring the coordinates, and something doesn't work. And this is exactly the situation where you can use the repair option in the set coordinates. So let's imagine that it's 2 years ago and I didn't have the set coordinates, right? So I'm going to insert the link card, center to center, just like I did before. And I'm going to do what I do all the time when I start a new project. As I said before, let's just rotate it, right? Let's say I like it like that, doesn't matter. And I'm going to do manage acquire coordinates. All right, so now if I go to the location tab in Revit, I can easily see that my project is not geolocated, even though I acquired the coordinates from the survey, right? What I want to do right now is to insert another Revit link by shared coordinates. So this link that I'm using acquired the coordinates from the same survey file. So I want to say it would fall right into the same place, right? But, and this probably happens a lot, it just falls somewhere here. It just uses the center to center. Revit doesn't recognize it. And as I said, this is a problem that sometimes happens. So what we can do to solve it, I'm going to open and unload the Revit file, right? And again, if you worked with Revit, you know this issue. It's so annoying. So you can see, this is my building file, and it has the same survey. It acquired the coordinates from the same survey. If I go over here to manage specify coordinate in point. I will see everything is in place, but still it doesn't fall in the same place to the other file. So this is because it's not geolocated. So we could just go to environment. Okay, let's take a look at the location before we do that. So we can see that we're somewhere in Manchester, right? Now let's go to environment, set coordinates. And again, we only need the region now. We don't need the correct address. We need to know where we are at. Click on OK, select the network, and now we're going to use the repair option. So that's nice. Once I click on repair, environment actually knows what the elevation of the project base point, and it will maintain it. Everything would just stay in place. Once I click on OK, if I go to the location again, you can see that now I'm in a different location. So the nice thing about it is this is actually a trick that if you get a survey or a project that you don't know the exact address of it, then using this tool helps you find where it is on Earth. It helps you find the address. So that's pretty cool. All right, so once I did that, I'm just gonna go File, Save As, Project, and let's save it as, I don't know, let's call it temp or something, right? For us to make sure that we're using the same file. So now I repaired this file, and bear with me, this is going to be the cool thing. So what I have to do, I actually have to remove this one from my file. I have to remove the old one. Let's go and do remove. Okay, don't worry. And I'm going to relink, or I'm going to link the new repaired file. This is the one I just saved, the temp, by shared coordinates. And here is the nice thing. Click on open, and environment would offer me to align my new file or geolocate it according to the repaired file. And the good news is that if you're working on a project with multiple consultants, you have to repair only one file and then tell everybody to link it to their model, and everybody are okay. So as you remember before, we were not geolocated on this file because we acquired it with manage acquire coordinates. Let's click on align right now. It's in its place. And if we go to location, we are now in the correct location in the world. If you remember, that's the same one next to Caesarea. Pretty cool. That's pretty exciting.
Yes, thank you for that. That's super cool. Like such a common problem. It's still. Did you know that the guides I made about coordinates are still the most visited on my blog? So everyone is struggling with that, and I think that tool can help for sure. I mean, I've always wondered why the coordinate system is not linked to location in Revit. That doesn't seem to make much sense. So it's fun that you thought about that and found a solution to it. So I encourage everyone to have a look and try it by yourself. There's a free trial for environment. Is that right?
Yes, we have a 30-day free trial. You could just go to arcintelligence.com, and then you can go to the free trial right at our homepage. There are a few tutorials as well. So yeah, you have a 30-day free trial, and I think there's a tool over there for everyone. Do we still have some time? So how much more time? Because I have a lot more topics I want to talk about.
Yeah. Let's keep going. But you know what? Maybe we should do the second giveaway, but we'll keep going after.
All right.
What do you think?
Great. Yeah, okay. I think it's a good idea. Let's do a giveaway for 1 year environment license for free.
Okay, so bear with me. I will just start. And for this one, make sure that you are subscribed to Revit Pure YouTube channel before joining in the raffle. So please subscribe to Revit Pure channel, and then you'll be able to enter the raffle. Let me start it. There you go. We should come on in the chat. So again, type in !raffle, and the prize you can win is a 1-year license for the environment plugin for Revit. So if you like what you just saw, but it's just a small sliver of what environment offers, you can have a look at my previous sessions with Nehama for more features as well, and watch their YouTube videos. So yeah, a lot of people are starting. So while that's going on, I will let you keep going since you have a lot more to share, right?
Yeah, so actually, I want to speak a little bit about phases, and this will be just one sentence because we have on our YouTube channel a short YouTube that relates to this topic. But if you're managing a site model, make sure that you understand your phases and that you build your topographies according to phases because you probably know that all topographies can show you cut and fill according to the former phase. So all the topographies in this project over here can give me the cut and fill calculation for the simple reason that I have another topography in an existing phase and they all relate to it. And again, this is for landscape a pretty important thing. And if I have floors, then usually in order to get the calculation, I will get this other topography underneath them. So just to get the cut and fill for all my projects. So this is a really small thing. And, you know, as BIM managers, we always know what phases are, but dealing with topographies and with site modeling, this is highly important. And now that we got this out of the way, let's talk a little bit about graphic standards in landscape. So first, we use a lot of shape edited floors, and this is just a simple detail. It's not about environment at all, but whenever in all our view templates, the split lines and folding lines are always off, and also the patterns, because take a look at what it would look like if I turn these on. It would be extremely awful. So two things, no lines and look at the patterns. So the pattern thing is an issue that we were kind of hoping that Revit would take care of it. And it really improved in 2023, but I think it improved for more simple shapes. However, in landscape, you don't really have any simple shapes. And I would tell you, this project is pretty flat, relatively. It's on next to the seashore, so there's not much mountains. But patterns do not function well in Revit. So what we actually do after we hide the patterns, so we hide all the patterns, we leave only the solid patterns that are kind of in the background. So what we do if we do want to show the patterns, and a lot of times we do, we actually use a field region. I'm sorry, that's a view-specific solution. It's not what we would hope for. But again, since Revit, I know Autodesk is working on improving that. However, Environment did do something to help you guys with that, and it's creating the object outline feature. So what this feature does, it just automates the process of creating these field region. So for example, this is a field region that was created with environment object outline. And the nice thing about it is that it gets the same name. It's like a new type that's created with the same name as the floor type. And it's updated, it's updating if you're updating the floor. So for example, let me select the floor, unpin it, and I don't know, move the boundary a little bit here, click on OK, don't attach. So environment would ask me if I want to update the contours of this floor. Yes, of course, but what I wanted to show you is how environment in a second would ask me if I want to update this field region. And again, we're just taking a workaround that already existed, but making it very, very quickly to create. So you only have to mark a floor and go to the object outline feature. And do you want to modify the link floors region? You can say no and then update it later. But for this example, let's say yes. And then it would just recreate the field region according to the new shape of the floor. And same goes if I change the floor type, the floor material, the pattern will change accordingly. And so it, again, when I'm creating this field region, let's do it over here. So this is a floor. Let's go to the object outline. And that's it. It was that easy. I just created the field region. It's a new field region type with the same name as the floor type. If you don't want it to update, you can uncheck this box. If you don't want to update the pattern, you could uncheck this box. So again, there's a lot of possibilities to every feature, but it just makes the work really, really easier. You could select all the surfaces, go to object outline, and you're done with it. The downside, it's view specific.
Yeah, so the typically people don't like 2D solutions, but in this case they automatically update when the shape. So it's like automated 2D solutions, so it still works, right?
Yeah, yeah, because the pattern updates, because it's linked to the floor, it's still kind of beamish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we all hope for a better better future for floor patterns, right?
All right, so
Uh,
we do have a winner. It's Musa Dahi. So I hope I pronounced that right.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Musa. So please send an email at nick@revitpure.com to claim your prize, and I'll redirect you the good people from the environment plugin so you can claim your
Yeah,
license.
we'll
So,
probably send it to your email, the license key. So yeah.
all right, great, thanks. So we're approaching the hour, but if you want, there's a few things you really want to talk about. We can extend a little bit, so to make sure you
Oh,
mention them.
damn, I have so much more. All right, I'm
All right,
gonna do it
let's keep going
quickly.
a bit.
I'm gonna do something quickly. All right. I'm going to show you this is something that's really important for B managers. I'm going to show you the behind the scenes of how I created all these beautiful shape edited floor. And I won't do it on the big model because it would just be too big. But let's go to the visibility graphics of this view. And in every view, I have these view filters. So first of all, I want to say I love view filters. That's a great thing. Everybody should know how to use them. They're a lot more simple than what it sounds. And the one view filter I use in all my view templates is the help topo surface view filter. Let's turn on the visibility and see. Ta-da. That's the behind the scenes. So the main way of how I create shape edited floor is by designing their grading with topography and then using the shape by topography feature over here. Then I keep them in my file, just in case I want to change them. So what I do, I use a view filter to hide them, right? And then let's say it looks really, really messy, but the truth is that if you work correctly, I have a name for each of these help surfaces. So I know what I designed with it. If I just want to redesign this pathway, I can delete the comment. All right. Let's reassign the filter, like hide all the surfaces in the filter. And then I can simply work on the surface and the path. So it's very, very easy. If you work in an organized way, it's very, very easy to do it. And then if I want to hide it, all I have to do is say help over here. I know that some people use work sets to hide the help surfaces, but for me, I found view filters extremely useful. I use them for many, many purposes. All right, view filters. By the way, beware when uploading your files to Autodesk Construction Cloud, make sure that you prepare certain views for the cloud. Otherwise, if somebody just opened a specific view, then everything would be messy. All right, so we talked about help surfaces, line styles. In addition to all the regular line styles that you would place in your file, I love to use a lot of line styles that are called help lines. And again, just showing you the behind the scenes of how I created this model. The nice things about line styles is that every line style behaves like a subcategory, allowing us to hide in view by category, which is very, very convenient to work with. So let's turn one of these on in this view, and you would be able to kind of see the behind the scenes of how I designed the grading. So sometimes to design the help surfaces or to design the grading, sometimes I would want to use model lines kind of as a reverse engineering to the contour lines of the surface. And then all I have to do is to hide it by category, and it's gone. Other graphics that I want to talk about it. All right, the next thing is using curbs, and I will be really, really quickly. I love curbs. I love using railings. All right. Railings are very, very useful for a lot of things, and especially for using them as curbs. So if you saw Nick's Autodesk University class about railings, this would be the most simple thing that you've ever done. That's a simple railing that only contains one rail with one profile. However, railings just work great with everything, with floors, with walls, with topographies. So go ahead and use them as curbs. And again, we just have a tool to speed up this process. This is the paste curve tool. And instead of creating a railing and then hosting it on an element and creating another railing and hosting it, you could just pick any edges in your model. Let's click on this loop over here. And then all the railing types in your project that has this just one rail with one profile, or maybe two rails, but the profiles have to be on one side, no balusters. There are some limitations, it doesn't matter right now, but all the correct railing types would be in this list. So you could just pick as many edges as you want. And then let's take this one off, click on apply, and it would place the railings. So again, it just makes everything shorter.
Uh,
Another thing is, yeah.
Quickly, there's a question from Roberto that asks, why don't you use slabs?
All right. So that's a really good question. Why don't I use slab edges? Well, the answer is that in slab edges, if you work with shape edited floors, they just don't work or don't work properly. And with roofs, you can use roof fascias, but then you would have to use roofs for all your shape edited, surfaces, and that just complicates things really badly. So we don't really have much choice. Railings just work so good, so why not? You know. And
Good
then
answer.
there's another thing. I actually like to use railings as wall cappings instead of wall sweeps as well. For the same reason, wall sweeps do not work if you edit the wall profile. So this is just the reason why I use these wall railings, um, these cappings as railings. And I can give you a nice example of our wall railing tool. And again, let's do something. I don't know.
And why do you prefer railings to sweeps?
Because sweeps would not work if you edit the wall profile.
Oh, okay, okay.
So if it doesn't work in all the situations that you will
It doesn't
have,
work.
I
Yeah.
just go ahead and yeah, it doesn't work. If it would work, then I would go ahead and use it. But again, to host railings on many walls at once, you could just go to the environment, wall railing. Let's take a look at this wall over here and place capping on top of it, under the railing over here. So again, making it really, really easy to just work with multiple railings. And if you're using the environment tools, they would also update automatically. So we kind of streamline this process as well. Do we have time for one last feature?
Sure, yeah, let's go ahead.
Ah, I'm greedy. I'm greedy today. So I hope people still have power, still have are awake. And then that feature that I want to show right now is the last one is collaborating with CAD and Revit. And for site disciplines, we still use Revit quite a bit, unfortunately. We still use CAD quite a bit, unfortunately. So the collaboration is really important. We have tools for collaborating with Civil 3D, but I want to show you the CAD one actually. And a lot of our clients that are using land effects in AutoCAD, it's really important for them to be able to transfer their information from CAD to Revit. So let's see how it works. Let's just delete everything over here. So in this example, I have a survey, a CAD survey, and I'm going to use the get blocks to place Revit families instead of the blocks, right? So let's go to the list mode. And in this list, I can actually see this one type of block, and then there's another type of block, right? And for each block, I can select the appropriate Revit family that I want to place instead. And let's place a bench over here, right? Applying the list. And then that's a really nice improvement that we added lately. You can actually take all the CAD attributes and add them as instance properties. So you can either not transfer the attributes at all, or you can create a new insert property, or maybe you can use an already existing Revit parameter for that. And let's just click on OK and see all the families are in place and they have the attributes, the information inherited from the CAD file. These, of course, are not in correct elevation in CAD, so we can simply post them. Actually, this is all the things that I wanted to say. This is all the things that are in my list. I hope
Great, you
everybody
went through
enjoyed
it.
it.
Well, we've have a few questions
Oh,
from
great.
Roberto that says that's a powerful tool. I use Dynamo for that. I guess placing elements to CAD blocks.
Mhm.
Load, not sure if I say that correctly, LOD. How do you import survey data from Civil 3D, e.g. of an existing situation?
Um, so I actually don't have an example open right now, but so this one, for example, you can see the roads over here. You can see that it's a topography, but it's uneditable. That's because it's from Civil 3D. We imported it using the external civil data feature. So the external civil data, basically you can take any Civil 3D file, export it to land.xml file format, and then yeah, you can see it doesn't find the it behaves kind of like a link you can reload from, reload, unload, and remove. Um, but in this case, it's struggling to kind of find where it's located. Basically, you could import it as so any thin surfaces would be imported as topo surfaces, and you can also import corridors, and they would be imported as a solid road category element. Did you know there's a category like that in Revit? There's a road category in Revit.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
Is that one of the new category? It's been there for a while.
It's been there for a while. There's
Mm-hmm.
just no elements in it. So we
Mm-hmm.
kind of decided to use
Mm-hmm.
it in order to yeah, there it is. In order to import in order to import corridors. So if you want to import the existing ground, you could just do it the same way. Just go over here, add more civil data, insert your XML file and import your service, just do it in an existing phase view. And Revit would know how to relate to this surface just as it relates to any other topo surface. So when you design surfaces in another view, in another phase, then you will get the cut and fill. So you get all the benefits of a topography. It's just not editable because we want to maintain the correct triangulation and elevations. There's all kinds of things in there. But if you want, you can explode it. So yeah, go ahead and, there's something I want to say. For each of our features, you can hover above it, click on F1, and get to our user guide. So there's a pretty elaborated guide of how to use the external civil data feature. It's pretty simple and it's so useful because this is really integral, like really holistic collaboration with Civil 3D. So it works with existing site as well.
Good. We have a question from Eric B that says, do these tools change with Revit moving to Topo Solid? So I think this is going to be a topic for probably the next Revit release. I guess we aren't too sure. But is this public information? It's on the roadmap, but Revit are working on improving the site tools.
So actually, yes, whatever is public information, I don't really know, but I think that everybody knows that there's going to be something that's called a Topo Solid. And the one thing I can say that we are working very, very hard to always be at the same stage of Revit. So whenever a new Revit version is released, at the same day, a new environment for Revit version is released as well. And we are definitely working. It's going to be good. So whenever Revit is improving, it's a good thing because we improve with it.
So you're going to be ready for this big release?
I mean, I hope so. I have to say, actually, most of our programmers are living in Ukraine, and sometimes they have electricity, sometimes they don't, but they are true heroes. They're magic workers. I don't know how they do it with this crazy thing they're experiencing. So I'm here sending them my love and support and admiration. And I trust, hopefully, we will be ready for 2024.
Yeah, well, shout out to the Arch Intelligence programmers in Ukraine. Hoping you're all fine and safe. Okay, do we have more questions? Okay, so I'll announce a couple of things before we say goodbye. The next episode of Revit Pure Live, and I saw a few people from Slantis at the beginning of the stream. I don't know if they're still there or not. With our next guest is going to be Mercedes Karikiri. She's from Uruguay, and she's the co-founder of the firm Slantis, originally known as Arch Sourcing. So it's going to be a discussion about what it means to start a firm that is doing BIM consulting and outsourcing, and what they've built is truly amazing. Looking forward to speak to her and her vision. So this is next week at the same time. Yes.
Then you have all women.
It is, yes.
Am I true? That's really cool. So it's cool. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, like lots of amazing women in BIM. So I'm happy to celebrate that. So, but yeah, this is next week at 3 p.m. with Mercedes from Slantis. Looking forward to it. Yeah, we've got some Slantis people in the chat. And what else do I have to mention beyond that? Yeah, again, you can have a look at our courses at revitpure.com/bundle. We have basics, which is our beginner's course. We have design if you want to use Revit for presentation purpose, create nice looking documents, and manage, which is probably my favorite and does include the pro template, all tricks for BIM managers, advanced strategies, things I wish I knew when I started being a BIM manager 10 years ago. So that's the managed course, and you can buy the bundle at a reduced price. And again, the cohort about families, you can learn more about that in the description of the video. And if you want to learn more about the environment plugin for Revit, which Nehama just showcased, archintelligence.com. And let me have a quick look at my email. I still didn't hear from Musa. So don't forget to claim your prize if you're still listening. Else, I don't know what we're going to do. But please, Musa, claim your prize so you can get your 1-year license. All right. Well, back to you, Nehama. Any final word? Anything you wanted to mention?
Peace and love to everyone. It
Yes.
was really great, and I hope it was useful for someone.
Thanks, it was. Well, lots of comments as usual saying that you're a great teacher, and everybody mentioned um, love the session, it seems like. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, and see you next week with Mercedes. Bye.